Welcome to Math 12 Sinusoidal Graphing with Transformations. Here we've been asked to predict the graph for this equation. So based on what we learned today and our form, we remember that our form is y equals a times sine b x minus c plus d. And I actually used an extra set of brackets here that's not necessary, so I can drop those out. So this is the form that we use. Remember that when you are using the technology, whether it be Desmos or our calculator, it will have a set of brackets here where I popped in red ones. So just remember that. Now, going back to our equation, we're going to look at this and remember A gave us our amplitude. So in this case, then, for this graph, that means we're going to have an amplitude of 3. So that means that our waves are going to be 3 times as large as our original sine graph. Our B, remember, influenced our period. So in this particular instance, remember, period then is equal to either 360 over b, that's degrees, or 2 pi radian over b. Because we're working in degrees, and we know that from our c value in our graph, in this particular case then, we are going to work with the 360. So with that in mind, with b being 1/2, the period for this particular graph then is going to be 360 divided by 1/2. And remember, when dividing by fractions, you invert and multiply. So our period is going to be 720 degrees. C in our form, remember, told us our starting point. But the funky thing about working with this, note here that we are working with a plus sign, and our form here has a minus sign, with the result then that what we are actually dealing with then is a phase shift of -60 degrees as a result of our C. And that just simply means, phase shift. So that just means that our whole graph starts 60 degrees before 0, or at -60. And last but not least, D. That determined, that's our vertical translation, and that determines our sinusoidal axis. So in this case then, our sinusoidal axis is y equals -2. Now, going to Desmos, let's have a look at that. So here we are in Desmos looking at our graph. You can see from the graph that our amplitude is 3. It's a little harder to see at the moment, but if we draw in our sinusoidal axis at y equals -2, then you can start to see a little more clearly that between the sinusoidal axis and the maximum, that we really are 3 units up. or from the sinusoidal axis down to the minimum, again, we are 3 units. So our amplitude is 3. Our period, remember we said, was going to be 720. And if you go from sinusoidal axis of -60 through to back to the sinusoidal axis after having completed one mountain, one valley, we are at 660. And if you take the absolute value of both of those, so 60 plus 660, we end up then with a period of 720. So our period matches what we predicted. Also, when we start to look at where does it start, here you'll notice the -60, and that was the influence of our C value moving it backwards 60 degrees as we predicted. That is using transformations to find sinusoidal curves.